Good evening, everyone, and thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I'm here with Justin Michael Williams, and we're going to be doing our very first event that's a little bit different than we've done before. It's actually going to be a guided meditation. So, Justin Michael Williams is an author, speaker, and top 20 recording artist who is using music and meditation to wake up the world. By working at the intersection of music, mindfulness, and social justice, Justin has become a pioneering millennial voice for diversity and inclusion in wellness. He has been featured by the Wall Street Journal, Billboard.com, and Yoga Journal, shared the stage with Deepak Chopra, and presented at events such as Wanderlust and South by Southwest. Justin is committed to using his voice for change, and his greatest wish is to empower people from all walks of life to wake up to their life's purpose and accomplish the dreams that they once thought were impossible. His book, Stay Woke, A Meditation Guide for the Rest of Us, is available for purchase. To learn more, visit staywokegiveback.com and hashtag WeJustWill on social media. So, first of all, Justin, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Drew. It's exciting to be here, quote unquote, here with you all. I've been in so many cities from my living room.
That is one of the nice benefits of doing these virtual events is we get to talk to people who we might never have an opportunity to before. And
Absolutely.
And I'm really excited. I told you a little bit before we got started. I didn't ever think that I had meditated before. I never thought I had meditated until someone pointed out to me that zoning out to music in the car for 8 hours at a time might be considered meditation. But I'm really excited about doing this tonight. So what can you tell me? What's a guided meditation like?
So the experience that we're going to have today, and this is probably the most important thing that I'll say of our entire time together, Drew, and for everybody listening and watching, hello. We're in for a dynamic time, and this is not going to be your grandma's meditation. You know, this is going to be a type of meditation, and this is probably the most important thing that I say in my book. It's actually on the back cover, and it's that if you can worry, you can meditate. And that's because worrying and meditation actually work almost exactly the same way in our brain. Like if you think of when you're worried about something and you continue to go back to that same thought over and over, you could be working, you could be writing, you could be trying to do whatever. If you're worried about something, it's going to keep kind of homing, pigeoning right back to the center of your brain. Mm-hmm. And when we meditate, we're doing the same exact thing, except we're flipping the switch from fear, which is what worry is all about, to empowerment. And so today's practice is actually going to be a practice that's going to help us become more alive. And Drew, what you're doing is actually really profound in a way, the way that your friend really marks that for you about meditating, because one of the ways that we meditate and we do it in a way that doesn't feel like a chore is by being with something we love. And clearly you driving in your car and listening to music and having your drive and having your moment and being in silence and being alone and whatever it is that you want, that's something that you authentically love. And a lot of people say they have trouble meditating, but oftentimes it's because we're trying to meditate on boring stuff. We're trying to meditate on our breath or on a candle flame or on this, and that stuff's good every once in a while. But I don't care how long you've been meditating or how spiritual you are, your breath's going to get boring after a while. And so we have to learn how to meditate with something we love, just like you meditate with your music in your car.
Well, that's great, because I've always felt, guilty's not the right word, but guilty, because people will talk about their meditation and they'll, the breath is something that I've heard people focus on before. And I'm impressed by it, but at the same time I always go, man, I could not, like 10 minutes, maybe 20, like if I really dug deep. But I like the idea that meditation is something that's available for all of us. So what are the kinds of things, I don't want to ask what are the kinds of things that meditation can help with, because I feel like it's a pretty broad answer, but what are the kinds of things that meditation can help a person work on?
That's amazing. That's such a good question, Drew. It's almost like I planted that question for you. And just so y'all know watching, we didn't even talk about this beforehand.
Nope.
Because that's like the perfect question that you can ask, because what a lot of people think falsely, and it's because of the propaganda of meditation, and I used to be like this too, to be honest. I used to think the first time that I ever got introduced to meditation, this was about 15 years ago. And this is before Oprah had ever done a meditation challenge, before there were all the apps. And so I didn't know anybody. I definitely didn't know any Black people meditating. Mm-hmm. And so when they said, you should try meditation, I literally went, meta what? I was like, isn't that worshiping the devil? What is that? I was like, I don't know what that is. That's literally what I said. And the first several times I tried, I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever tried. This is stupid. They're trying to tell me to get my mind to stop thinking and imagine a river. I cannot imagine this river, and all I'm thinking about is sex and my to-do list, like, and food. It's like, and this is what happens to so many of us. And the reason I'm sharing this is because the propaganda of meditation tells us that we're supposed to try to get our minds to stop thinking. And it tells us that meditation is supposed to be about relaxing. But none of that is actually true. In fact, we cannot get our minds to stop thinking. That would be like me saying, all right, y'all, we're going to meditate. I need everybody to get their hearts to stop beating. 1, 2, 3. Like, you would look at me like, but for some reason, we have this false notion that we can get our minds to stop thinking. And every once in a while, I'm somewhere where there's somebody who's been meditating for a long time. People usually think I'm a little younger than I am, but I've been practicing for a long time, almost close to 20 years. And
wow.
the thing that people will say is, well, I've gotten my mind to stop thinking. And I was like, no, you haven't, because just the idea that you got your mind to stop thinking is what? A thought. Mm-hmm. You did not get your mind to stop thinking. The mind is billions of neurons, like smashing together, creating thoughts. We don't actually want to stop that system. We've been told that we want to stop that system. But what we actually want is for our thoughts to work for us instead of against us. That's what we actually want. And meditation can help you do that. And the second thing, as related to the topic about meditation being a practice that is supposed to just help you relax. Meditation is not about relaxing. Meditation is about becoming more alive. That's what this practice is really about. Becoming more connected to who you really are, more connected to your real passions, more connected to what you really care about in your life, in your relationships, in your family, and in the world. And when we become more fully connected and to what we really care about and who we really are, then we step into the lives that we actually can see when we close our eyes, these lives that we know we have the potential to live. And so the way that I teach meditation is very simple. It's around giving you the capacity to go from being who you are now to being who you want to become. And when we talk about that, there's a gap, Drew. There's always a gap. Who are you now versus who do you want to become? And we all have these different domains of our life. We have, our bodies or our money or our romantic relationships or our friendships or our art or our business projects or whatever it is. And there's a gap. And meditation puts you on the express elevator, on the express train to stepping into the life that you know that you deserve to live. So that's what it'll help you with. Sound good?
That sounds very good to me. And I
Cool.
I feel like sometimes when it comes to things that we view as spiritual, when it comes to the esoteric, there's this sort of mystery that gets put around them. The only way you can properly meditate is to stop thinking. You have to focus on one of the mandalas. You have to think about what is the thought of being. And I like the idea of demystifying that and making it available for everyone. Because when you put things in the special box, in the special glass, in the special place you have to hike 18 days to get to after fasting for 3 days, I feel like you're putting up gates and you're telling people, oh, this is for everyone, but only the really good ones can get in and actually get it. And it's another layer that separates us. So I think, making it accessible is really, really important. And I like that. I like that that's what we're doing here.
That's what we're doing. And, you give me, reason to talk about, I'm just going to pull it up really quick.
Please.
The subtitle of the book, Stay Woke, which is a meditation guide for the rest of us. And I'm actually going to, do I have it up? Oh, yes. I'm actually going to share something. I'll just hold it up here. So what a lot of people are normally surprised, and I just want to read like a short little passage. It's one of my favorites to read, is the book. Look, I know a lot of us get digital books now, which is great, but this book is, a full color, like very, very designed, book that you can walk through. And when I talk about, it was so amazing. When I got this book in the mail, I just screamed, I had known the design was going to be nice, but I was just so grateful that it came out this beautiful. And we have this incredible illustrator named Victoria Casanova who did, 30 plus illustrations for the book that show people of all genders and all ages and all socioeconomic backgrounds and sizes and, things like that. Anyway, I'm just showing off the book right now because I'm always so proud of it. But my point of bringing this up right now is the subtitle, which is a meditation guide for the rest of us. And there's a little play on words there, right? Like for the rest of us, meaning like for us to rest.
Yeah.
But the rest of us being, like you said, it's especially for those of us who think this practice isn't for us, that just doesn't work for us. Mm-hmm. And the reason why it's so important for me to share this practice with people like us, with like normal people with like messy lives and like long to-do lists and lots of shit to do and who aren't going to climb up the 18 days of steps. Mm-hmm. The reason why it's so important for us to have this practice is because really what the world needs right now more than ever is for all of us to step into our full power, into the full capacity of who we really are. And I don't mean that in like a, so you get a lot of social media followers, whatever. Sure, if that's your path, great. But I mean that in a way of like, how are you showing up for your kids? Like, how are you showing up as a parent? How are you showing up in your relationships? How are you showing up for your family? How are you showing up at work? How are you showing up for yourself and your self-care right now and your boundaries and forgiveness and like all these things that we really, have the opportunity to step into, because this is the big because what doesn't heal repeats. And if we don't heal it, it first of all repeats in our own lives. And I know people feel that, like we end up in the same cycles over and over. Mm-hmm. And if we don't heal it, guess who gets to be in those cycles? Future generations, over and over and over. And that applies individually and collectively. So, yeah, and that's why it's really important to me. And I was going to read one little section, but I don't know if right now is the time to do that. Drew, did you have another question or something you wanted to talk about first?
Well, I'll tell you, actually, I have tons of questions. I was going to try and limit myself a little bit because I want to make sure that we have time to do this properly, which maybe, maybe you're going to tell me there is no proper way, but, And what I'd love to do.
Your questions are amazing. I think people will really relate to your questions, so feel free. But go ahead.
I'll tell you what. Let me just throw one more that's a little more book related, and then we can sort of take it from there.
Cool.
So, you said you've been practicing for 20 years. You're not a new hand at this. What inspired you to write this? Is it kind of looking around, sort of like you said, at the world now and going, wow, okay, this is the time for this book, or was it something in your life? What inspired this moment?
Yeah, so I'm so glad that you asked that, actually, Drew. So, I grew up in a home in the Bay Area in Northern California. I'm in California right now. I'm in LA right now, but I grew up in Northern Cal near Oakland, in a little town called Pittsburgh, California. And I grew up literally in a home with gunshot holes on the outside of my house. And with domestic violence and alcoholism and trauma. And, we all have our trauma. We all have our stuff that we grew up with. I always say this is not like the oppression Olympics. It's like we all have stuff that we deal with. And when we have those things, we learn to adapt to them. And my adaptation was one that looked a little healthier than some other people that grew up around me. But it was what I think a lot of people might relate to, was to become like a chronic overachiever. And the shadow of that is that what happens when you're a chronic overachiever is your success gets completely entangled with your self-worth, right? And you don't know your worth outside of what you accomplish or what you do or what you achieve or the accolades that you have. And, it was for good reason. Growing up in that kind of environment, like my idea was, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to be really smart. I'm going to make a whole bunch of money. I'm going to like make a better life for my family. That was kind of like my push. And so what happened is I did that. I checked every box on the list. I graduated the top of my class in high school. I gave the speech at our graduation. I got a full ride academic scholarship to go to UCLA. I get to LA. I come out of the closet when I get to LA. Like I'm living this fabulous life in Los Angeles that you could ever imagine. My life looked exactly like I'd always dreamed of. And I had this moment of reckoning where I was in my dorm room when I was 19. And I had developed an eating disorder because I would think I was searching outside of myself to figure, okay, something still isn't right. Like, I'm not getting this. And what I came to in that moment was this painful realization that I think so many of us have at some moment in our lives, that I had done everything that I possibly could to make my life look how I always dreamed of on the outside. And inside, I was still miserable. I was still miserable. And I just was kind of at the edge of my knowing. I was like, I don't know what else to do. Like, why am I not happy now? And I go to, like I talked about in the beginning, I went to this therapist because I had developed that eating disorder again, which I think was just out of trying to fix something about myself. And I mean, it was bad, dude. Like, you can never tell on Zoom, but I'm about 6 feet tall. I weigh about 160 pounds now. And at my lowest, my freshman year of college, I weighed 115. Oh, wow. I was so little. Yeah. And thought that I was fat. I mean, it just was so sad. And I go to therapy, and that was when he said, you should try meditation. And remember, I'm like, meta what? And whatever. And so I try it and I hate it and whatever. And so here's the moment. This is the whole reason I'm telling this story, is because of this moment. I got introduced to this meditation teacher named Lauren Roche, who has been teaching for 50 years, since the early 60s. And I got introduced to him, and he taught me how to meditate. And at the end of that practice, he looks at me and he says, all right, kid, I want you to try this practice every day for 2 weeks. And if at the end of these 2 weeks, and I want you checking in with me every day, and if at the end of these 2 weeks, this practice works for you, I'm going to teach you everything I know. And I'm looking at him like, what? Like, this is somebody who charges like $500+ an hour, and he's like, I'm going to teach you everything I know. And I'm thinking, what does this guy want? I'm like this little gay, like black dude. And he's like this older white man. I'm like, what's he want? And he said, which I'll never forget, he said, in all my years of teaching, I have never come across someone who looks like you and who's gone through what you've gone through, who's been as interested in this practice as you are. And I think it can really help you. And one day, I think there are going to be people who need to hear your voice who don't need to hear mine. That's what he said. And I remember in that moment, I mean, I was like a kid, so I was like, no pressure, something stupid like that. But what happened was the rest was really history. I apprenticed with him for about 3 years and studied and traveled teaching. And then the moment came for me and it was really, truly, I'd been already teaching, but the truth of the story is the moment came for me right after the last election, when I started just seeing so much violence and so much hatred in the world. And meanwhile, I had this practice inside of me and these teachings that I was doing already all over the world that had transformed my life and thousands of people's lives around the world. And I started saying, I'm hiding my gift. I need to be giving this gift back to not just the most privileged people in society who can pay to come to these spiritual retreat centers and these wellness conferences. Again, the people who are able and willing to take the 18 days to climb up the stairs. I need to bring this back down to people like me, to people who were just like me when I started. And I'm not saying like me in terms of just my skin color or my identity or my sexual orientation. I mean, people who are dealing with obsessive thinking, people who are stuck, people who feel like they want more from their life but don't know where to go, and that moment, and also, to intersect it with equality and justice. And when I say equality, I don't even mean like what we're fighting against, but I mean this future that we're all moving toward that is actually a better future where we can all really come together, and how meditation actually intersects that. And so when I really stepped into my power of that, I knew right away there had to be a book, and that there was no book. A book did not exist. I found out when we were doing the research that speaks about meditation in the way that we're talking about it right now, and that gives the practice in the way that I'm going to share with you all today.
Wow. Well, first of all, that's a great answer. Thank you for sharing that. That is really, really, first of all, vulnerable, and I appreciate that, and kind of wonderful. And I think I like the idea that we shouldn't be fighting against something, but we should be moving towards something. I think that's a really, really healthy way to sort of deal with or process everything that's going on So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
So how do we start? What do we do? I've got the incense going. I've got the singing bowl. Where do I begin?
Really?
No,
Oh
I wish.
God,
You know what? It's funny. I used to actually, as a kid, really like incense. I thought it smelled great. And then I had like a little it was like a dragon thing. You put the incense in, the smoke came out. It was cool. It fell. It broke. I never replaced it. So no, there's no incense. It's just me and a couple of dogs who are actually behaving really well tonight. So that's a plus.
That's so great. Oh my gosh. Okay. So first of all, we're going to do a short practice and then we'll talk about it a little bit afterwards.
Cool.
And unpack it a little bit. And I am curious, Drew, for the people that you're seeing on your end on YouTube, are you able to see any like comments or anything like that if I prompted people?
I am.
Okay, so
there are a couple of comments I've got. I'm happy
cool.
to share them with you.
Okay, that's helpful because I might prompt a question or two as we go through the practice. And here's the most important thing that I'm going to say before we begin this practice, okay? Everything that you've ever thought meditation was, this golden white light surrounding you, we're supposed to just be in total peace and surrender, just drop the bullshit. Just drop it, and I'm going to guide us through a visualization. And this is probably the most important thing that I'll share before we get into this practice is this. Some people, when I say visualize or imagine, some people visualize or imagine with images in their mind. So if you say like, imagine an ocean, they see it. But some of us don't visualize that way at all. Or if we do, it's sometimes like super fuzzy or blurry or incomplete. If that's you, I don't want you to feel like you're doing it wrong. Because the thing is some of us, and this is why a lot of people don't like meditation. When I was first introduced to it, I had this teacher that was like, I want you to visualize a river. And I like couldn't see a river. And I don't think at that point in my life I'd ever even been to a river. I grew up in the freaking inner city in the hood, like I'd never been to it. So I'm like trying to imagine this river. She's like, then imagine you get in a boat. And I'm like, shit, I still don't see a river. And then you get in a boat and you're riding off on the boat. And I'm like, okay, I can't do this because I still can't see it. But what I didn't know at that time is that you can actually imagine with all of your senses. And so you might, if I'm saying imagine a river, you might see a river, you might hear a river, you might smell the environment of that river, you might taste the water, you might feel the sensation of it on your body, you might feel an emotional change. So you might see, hear, taste, smell. Any of those things are welcome. If you don't see it clearly, don't feel like you're doing it wrong. Just notice what you do notice with all of your senses. So that's just an important thing for me to name, because if that teacher would have told me that, what I've learned over the years in my practice is that I've gotten more visual over the years, but in the beginning, I was actually a total auditory person. So if she would have said, imagine you can hear the sound of a river, I would have been in. But I didn't get that instruction. So I'm giving it to you today. All right. Ready?
Yeah.
All right. So here's what I'd like you to do. Start by just sitting in whatever space you're in, and then soften your body like 5% more. Just relax. Drop your shoulders. You don't have to sit up straight. You don't have to sit up tall. The most important thing is I want you to be comfortable. So if that means you have to put your back up against something or just chill. Like I tell people, meditation comfortable should be the opposite of church comfortable. Just like really comfortable, lounging. So get cozy. And if you get uncomfortable at any point during the practice, you have permission to move. And then I'd actually like you to start today with your eyes open.
Okay.
And I want you to look at something in your space that is preferably not the screen, anything in your space that you're in. And I want you to focus your eyes straight on one point in your space. So it doesn't have to be a special point. It could literally be a spot on the wall, anything. And just something that's easy for you to look at. And now just look straight at this point and take a deep breath in while keeping your eyes focused on it. And a deep breath out, focusing your eyes straight on that point. And now keeping your eyes focused on this one point, I want you to start to expand your peripheral awareness. So what that means is keeping your eyes on the one point, notice how far to the right of you can see without moving your eyes. And then take in any colors or textures or light patterns you see from the right. And then notice how far to the left of you can see without moving your eyes. And notice how far above and below you can see without moving your eyes. And just start to feel this sense of expansiveness happening. Take in as many colors and lights and textures as you can, patterns. Notice what's in your space. Notice that you can almost see like a 180-degree view, like almost even behind you a little bit. All without moving your eyes as the best as you can from this one point. And now place your hands over your heart, one on top of the other. This is not just to be woo-woo. This actually releases oxytocin into the body, which is a chemical, I guess you can call it, that helps us feel good, feel relaxed. And I want you to take a deep, full breath in. And on the exhale, if you feel comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes. And I'm going to invite you to have your eyes closed for the whole practice, but if that's uncomfortable to you and you want to keep them open, you can just look back at that same spot in your space and just keep a soft gaze on your eyes, so when you kind of blur your vision out so that your eyes don't get too distracted. Otherwise, you can have them closed. And on the count of 3, I want you to exhale everything out of your system through your nose. 1, 2, 3. Exhale everything out and come to completely empty. And now slowly to my count of 3, inhale for 1, 2, 3. Hold for 1, 2, 3. Exhale 1, 2, 3. We're going to do that 2 more times. Breathe deeper this time. Inhale 1, 2, deep 3. Hold for 1, 2, 3. Exhale 1, 2, 3. Good. One more time. We're going to hold it at the top this time. Inhale for 1, 2, 3. Hold for 1, 2. And now keep holding it. And see if you can sip in a little bit more air, really fill up all the way up through your collarbone, your neck, your jaw. And then open the mouth, just let the breath out. Great. And now just breathe normally. And you can let your hands down if you want, or if it feels good, you can keep them on your chest. Some of us like to do that. I know I do. And I want you now to join me in this visualization. I want you now to imagine a future version of yourself who is living the life of your dreams. You have the body you've always wanted, you have the money you've always wanted, you're in the house you've always wanted, you're in the relationships you've always wanted, you look the way you've always wanted. Everything is exactly as you've always wanted, and if that feels impossible, good. We're thinking beyond our circumstances, because if we can't think beyond our current circumstances, we'll never be able to live beyond them. So just let yourself go there, even just for a moment. All challenges are overcome. All circumstances are surmounted. You're living the life of your dream. You can rub a magic lamp. Anything is possible. What do you see? What do you envision? And now you might have multiple images kind of shuffling in your mind, or kind of a fuzzy moment. But I'm going to invite us to land in one spot and dimensionalize this a little bit. So I want you to notice in this vision today, are you indoor or are you outdoor as you look at this future you? Where is this future you landing, inside or outside in the vision? What color might you be wearing in the vision? Is there anybody there with you? kind of environment are you in? And what do you see around you, even if it's fuzzy or incomplete? And what's happening in this vision right now? What's happening that indicates to you that you are indeed living the life of your dreams? No holding back. Anything's allowed. What's going on? What either happened or is happening or is about to happen? And just take a moment and scan and look around you in that space of this future you. And notice, do you hear anything in the vision? Is there any sound related to it? And if not, that doesn't come up, it's fine. You're not doing it wrong. Just notice what you do notice. Everyone will have different things. Notice, do you smell anything in the vision? Is there a smell associated? Notice, do you taste anything in particular? What would this future you be tasting? Do you feel anything in your physical body? Is there a temperature even, or anything that you might notice? And what's the emotional quality that the future you has, or that you even feel as you look at this vision? What's the emotion? How does the future you feel to be living the life of your dreams? Now just scan around you for another few seconds, just a few moments, giving yourself time and space. There's nowhere to go. And if your mind has wandered, it's okay. You're not doing it wrong. Just welcome yourself back to the vision. Every breath is a moment to begin again. Just scan around you in the vision and notice what you notice. Just pick up any details that you can, even if they're fuzzy or blurry or incomplete, dimensionalizing it as much as you possibly can. Without force, even if things don't make sense. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you hear? What do you notice? And now I'm going to ask you a question. And I want you to answer this question using 1, 2, or 3 words, the very first words that come to your mind, and just keep it in silence. And when you get the words, just repeat them in your mind. Here's your question. As you bring this future you straight into your mind, dimensionalizing it and seeing this future self, what energy do you need to cultivate more of in your life now, today, to become closer to being that person that you see in the vision? What energy? I'll ask it again. What energy do you need to cultivate more of in your life now to become the person you're seeing? What energy do you need? Name it. Claim it. 1, 2, or 3 words. And then go ahead and take a deep, full breath in, imagining you're inhaling the energy of those words. And a deep breath out, letting it go. Again, you might imagine the words as like a color or a texture. Inhale the energy of the words, filling yourself up, like you're taking a shower or a bath in it. And then exhale, let it go. Last time, inhale. Breathe in that energy that you need. And exhale, let it go. And then take one more breath in and out and wiggle your fingers and toes. And when you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes. And so that's a practice. And it's a very powerful practice because what we just did was a little bit what I talked about earlier. We said, look at who you are now. And then in meditation, we said, who do you want to become? And everyone has a different vision, but it's a beautiful vision. It's about different parts of our lives. And when you do this practice, different things will come up. And ultimately, we said, what's in the gap? And notice I didn't say, what do you need to do to become the person in your vision? I said, who do you need to be? What is the energy that you need to cultivate? And this is so important because you know what you need to be well. You know. And so many times we're taught that we have to reach outside of ourselves to find the answer into those external circumstances. But if we do that, then we end up stuck. If we don't change at the level of who we're being, if we're not changing at the energy level, and this is not a woo-woo, I mean, really, who are you being? And if we're not adjusting at that level, then we end up stuck in the same cycles. We end up trying to grow and doing all this work and continuing to be in the same patterns because we can't show up differently. And I'll give a super practical example. Like, how many times have we been in a relationship? I know I'm guilty of this with someone, whether it's romantic or not, and realized that relationship wasn't right for you, got out of it, and then got into a new relationship with a different person and realized you were in the same relationship again, but with a different person. Same things coming up again. And that's because wherever you go, there you are. My mentor, John Kabat-Zinn, brother of mine, he endorsed the book, says that. Wherever you go, there you are. And so if we haven't changed at the level of being, then we can't show up for a relationship differently, even if it's with a different person. And this applies to our relationship, not just with people, but with our bodies, with our jobs, with our work, with our kids, with our family, with everything. And so my question to you now, as we close out the meditation at least, is if anybody's willing in the chat box, and Drew, I'd love to talk about it with you, to type in what words came up for you. And also, how did that practice feel to you? How did that feel? So I'd love to hear what comes up in the chat box, Drew, if anybody does feel comfortable sharing, and then also what came up for you if you're comfortable sharing.
Absolutely. So I'll share a little bit first. That way, whoever's watching, they're not the first person. They feel comfortable. So the question was, what was the word that came up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the word that came up for me was purpose.
I love that.
Yep.
And how was the practice for you? Like when we were doing that and imagining the future self, like, did you see it? Did you feel it? Was it easy? How did you feel?
For me, it was definitely more of a visual thing. It was relatively easy. I spend a lot of time thinking about the future and planning it and trying to figure it out. It was nice, though, not focusing so much on the planning of it and how do I make this happen? What's the next thing I have to do? I've done this, and then I have to do this, and I have to come over here. It was nice to just sort of kind of be in the moment with it. And seeing it I was certainly able to see it. I was able to hear it. I couldn't smell it, which was like then became a thing. I was like, why can't I smell this? And like,
I can never smell anything in my visions ever. Like, it's like I think it's happened once.
Or like, and then so you start trying to like force it. You're like, all right, what's a smell that I think will work here? And you're like, no, it's not. All right, pull back a little bit and then kind of come at it from a different angle. But yeah, it was a very good feeling. It was surprising. It was not where I thought it would go.
That's usually what happens.
If I'm being completely honest, I mean, it's not like it was something that I hadn't imagined as part of my future. And I mean, look, I'm a pretty open guy. I'll be honest. I'm happy to share kind of what I saw there.
Please.
All right. Yeah.
Please. If you're willing, I'd love to hear.
No, I don't mind at all. Like I said, I'm me. I'm not really all that worried about what people might think. So, yeah, for me, I was in a house somewhere, and it's weird how your brain picks out the details, because for me it was, it was a marble floor with black and white tiles, the bigger white tiles kind of forming a diamond with the little black tiles in the center, and it was inside, and there were big windows, and it was all very golden. It was that perfect time of the day, where it just the gold kind of fills the room. And I was in a white shirt with red suspenders and black slacks.
Wow.
And I had a kid, not on my knee, but on my knee, so to speak. I don't know what it was, but they were laughing. I was laughing. I was not laughing at them, but they were being silly, and I was laughing with them. And kind of like on the TV, there was hockey, because I don't think I could basically envision anything where hockey's not involved. And like out the window, there was the rest of my family. I couldn't. It was a little fuzzy over there, but it was a really nice, very. I keep saying golden, but golden was just the color of what was going on there.
And that's so beautiful. And I'm sure anybody listening can hear there's this just brightness to your voice as you're even describing it. And do you have a kid now, or was it your kid in the vision, or you're not sure? It just was a kid.
I don't have a kid now. It was definitely mine. In the vision, anyway.
It's beautiful. Was that a surprising part for you, or no?
No. The surprising part, and it's funny how it works. I know not where the suspenders came from, but I know why suspenders in a white shirt and slacks. Because when I think about being a little kid, that was what my dad wore a lot. And so it was this interesting. I was not in his clothes, but in his clothes almost. It was a very that's where it surprised me, because I've
That's
never.
So beautiful.
When I think about my happy place, for whatever that means, my happy place has always been somewhat of a thing of solitude. Up in the mountains in a cabin. There's spruce and it's winter, and this was very, very different. This was very warm, and there were other people, which makes it sound like I'm not into other people. I love people. Just when I think about my happy place, I'm back in New Hampshire, and I'm driving alone on those blacktops, and this was just a very different sort of vibe for me.
This is so awesome, Drew. And I think what I want to say is this is why it's a big difference, and this is what really meditation teaches us to do, is we really drop the breath and the eye thing and all of that stuff drops us into this other level of presence with ourselves, to where when the question comes up and the prompt comes up, it's coming from a different place inside of you than what your conscious brain is programmed to constantly just think. When you're like, oh, this is my happy place. Okay. So if we just went straight into it and I said, okay, Drew, imagine you're at a place. You're going to go to the mountains, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but when we're asking it in the way very particular, your future self, all boundaries surpassed, nothing in the way. What do you see? People sometimes get what they expect, but oftentimes there's elements of it that we're like, whoa, I was not expecting that, but it was so true. It was so right on, even though I haven't really gone there. And I wanted to ask you, Drew, why the word purpose? What did that mean to you in that, when I said when I asked you what energy did you need to cultivate?
Sure. So initially, it's interesting. Initially, that wasn't the first vision. It was sort of like looking down over a soap bubble and seeing lots of different ones. And then one kind of became a lot more focused, and that's where we went. And the same thing was sort of with the words. It was steadfast, strong, and purpose. And the more I just sort of worked those, the more it just really became that purpose was the most important piece of that for me.
Yeah.
And I think that part of it was, I'm working very hard. I'm doing a lot of different things. I'm trying to, I'm pushing myself, especially, being a small business owner in today's world is a lot tougher, I think, than it was 6 months ago. And what am I pushing towards? Why am I working so much? And there's a purpose to it, maybe.
Yeah. And also, I think what I'm hearing from you is wanting to make sure that you're aligned with a sense of purpose, right? As you're doing all these things. And also, as you're seeing a family and a home and the golden lights of there's really a purpose behind all of this, this is a bigger purpose. I don't want to be putting words in your mouth, but that's kind of what I was hearing in the undertones of what you're saying.
So
That makes sense.
It does make sense. So we've got some comments now, and don't get me wrong.
Ooh, tell me.
Selfishly, I want to say, I want to talk about mine. I don't, but no,
No, do it. This is so helpful to everybody. So tell me a few of the other words and what came up.
You know what? Let's talk about them. I'm here. We'll come back to me. I want to make sure the people who are kind enough to do this with us get to have their time as well. So, Magpie Starcatcher said, I went to my peaceful place instantly. The energy I felt I needed was peaceful green. I've been doing more shadow work lately to try and come to peace with myself.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So peaceful green, that's amazing, because I'm sure it was like a green energy coming through. That's fantastic. And green is like a heart energy color, and shadow work is so important. So, okay, what else you got?
For those of us like myself who may not know, what is shadow work?
Okay, that's a really good question. So shadow work it's a kind of, I'll put it this way. The stuff that's in your shadow is often the things in our life that we have hidden even from ourselves because of shame. And when people are doing personal growth work, one element of personal growth work is building your light. So it's the positive thinking and meditating and motivational and podcasts. But the bigger the light, often the bigger the shadow gets cast. And so we need to also look at some of the stuff from our past or from our current life that's in the shadows of our life that we're not even really paying attention to, but that are sometimes controlling our life from the background. And so we do some of that in actually the second chapter of my book, or the third chapter. It's a whole section on self-sabotage. And oftentimes shadow work helps you illuminate or like shine the light on things in your life that you're not even recognizing, are like, they're not even in your sphere of consciousness, but that are keeping a way of your life persisting in a certain way. And so shadow, whereas like kind of traditional therapy brings you to, like you'll come and talk about therapy and you're talking about what you're aware of, right? Like, oh, this is what's happening in my life right now. Help me with this problem. Where shadow work isn't so much about the story of what's happening now, but it's about what's causing those things to be persistent from the background in your life. So that's like I could do a whole hour on shadow work, but that's kind of does that make any sense though?
No, that does make sense. I like to, I like to joke that I'm not a very deep pool, but I'm a very shallow ocean. So knowing a little bit about something and being able to understand, like, oh, I know what that means is hugely helpful.
It's amazing.
So the next comment I've got is from Chris, and Chris said the energy was around the word steadfast. Which is interesting because that was
your word, and that's not a common word that I hear. That's interesting. Okay.
Content with life, even as tough challenges arose.
Beautiful. Is there any more?
Those are the two that
Perfect.
I've got.
Yeah, that's great.
And so what I'll do is, because you asked a couple of questions of them when I read them to you, so I'll chat a little bit about my stuff.
Well,
or if you
let me tell you. Let me tell you this. Let me tell you. I think we have enough. I think what the intention is, and I'm so glad, Drew, that you kind of dove in with me and opened up in that way, because I think people can see themselves as an example. And in Stay Woke, in the book, one of the things that I do that I was very intentional about is, as you're walking through the book, it's like you're going through a private workshop with me and a few people. And I have these 4 characters in the book who are based upon real people. And you go through the book and you're hearing and seeing what their experiences are. And that helps put your experience in a frame. And so I think that's really what you just did. And so I'm just it's not often that somebody who's doing a book event is this vulnerable with me. So thank you, Drew. It like really, really helps a lot. And I'm sure for the people there listening, comment if that helped you and show Drew some love. And what I wanted to say in particular to kind of bring this home is what most meditation practices teach us to do. And I mention this is to look outside of ourselves, to ask a guru or a teacher or a book or anything, hey, can you tell me what I need to be well? Can you tell me what I need to heal? And the thing is there's nothing wrong with that to a certain extent. Like, it's okay to get outside support and help from mentors and teachers and books and guides. Obviously, we're all doing that. But what's often missing from the equation, especially as it relates to meditation, is we're always told that we have the answers within. But as it relates to meditation, no one's ever telling us how the hell to get within to get the answers. We always have to look to somebody else's practice. Hey, meditation app XYZ, can you tell me what mantra I need? Can you tell me what practice I need? And again, that's okay sometimes, but imagine, Drew, if I gave you Chris's mantra, which I guess would have worked because it was the same, but if I would have gave you green peace or peaceful green, would that be negative? Of course not. It would be fine. You would probably feel good, but you're not going to feel as connected to that as the star, whatever the name was of that person, Stardust or whatever it was. Like, you're not going to feel as connected to that as them as you will with purpose, right? And so this practice, what I do in the book and in all of my work is I never like put a dogma on people. Like, this is how long you have to meditate. This is exactly the words you need to use. This is exactly your breath you focus on. No, I do it like a recipe book and say, here are a ton of ingredients and here are the right questions that you might ask yourself to create the recipe that works for you, including the mantra, which is what you just created, Drew. It was a mantra. Your mantra is purpose. And the reason why that's important is if I gave you the mantra green peace for you, you might be like, oh, that was nice. That was peaceful. But the next day you'll be over it because you don't really care about green peace. You care about purpose because that's what's taking you from who you are now to who you want to become. Just like that person cares about green peace and the other person cares about steadfast. And everybody has their own thing. Some people's confidence and discipline and love and safety. And I've heard Beyonce. I've heard everything, like literally every word. You know, one of my favorites is one of my clients once said, we came out of it and she said, salty rocks. And I said, oh, right. Like I just was like, that was a new one. Like that really was one I hadn't heard before. This was years ago. And I said, why? And she said, because the most peaceful and at ease I've ever been in my life is my dad was a surfer. And I used to sit on these salty rocks and watch him surf when I was a little girl. And I'm like, perfect. That's your mantra. That takes you exactly where you need to go to feel that inner peace within you. And for you, it isn't about feeling peace. It's about feeling purpose, you know? And so the reason I'm highlighting and accentuating this point so much and exaggerating it even a little bit is because if you're meditating on something that matters to you, on something that you love, in the same way, Drew, that you went in your car and drove around listening to the music that you love, then no one has to force you to do it because you love it, because you like it, because you're interested in it. And the thing is most of us actually, people say all the time, well, I just can't concentrate long enough. I just can't long enough. And I think you said that before we got on, like, I've never really wanted to do that meditation because I can't really, sit and do it that way. I think you said something along those lines. Yeah, pardon if I'm putting words in your mouth. And the thing is we actually don't need practice concentrating. We have no trouble concentrating on things that we like. The thing is most meditation practices are boring. They're boring. And so we have trouble concentrating. But when you insert something that you love as much as and that you're interested in, as much as you love and are interested in the music that you drive with, now the whole practice changes. And the benefits of it really come alive for you, because if you meditate, Drew, you're going to end up feeling like you're cultivating more purpose in your life. If that other person meditates and they're on peaceful green, they're going to be focusing on incorporating more peace into their life and steadfastness and vice versa. And so you're getting what the inner knowing of your life knows that you need. And that's revolutionary for this practice.
Wow. Well, it's interesting. I don't. It's a fascinating sort of prospect to think that we're responsible for, in charge of, and completely capable of our own transformations. And there's a lot of there's an intimidating aspect to that, but I think the approach you're taking here with awakening everyone to that gently and not just going, hey man, look, you're in charge. There's no sorting hat. Figure it out. Is great, because one of the things that I think people desperately want and yet desperately rail against is we all want to be put in the box. We all want someone to come by and say, this is your box. This is the box you go in. You go here. But we're all very, very upset when we get put in the wrong box.
Don't put me in the box. Don't put me in this box.
Exactly. We all want to look. We all want to take the which which Hunger Games character are you quiz, but we're all angry and we don't get the one that we actually wanted. And so the process of figuring out sort of, well, look, what is your mantra? What is your process? And yeah, it's going to be unique and tailored to you, and that's really cool because you're going to be the one who builds it. Is, I think, great. I think it's a very, very honest sort of approach,
Yeah, that's it. And all of my work is like that. I mean, I think really truly as we are learning to quite frankly, I'll just say it this way, kind of like decolonize our wellness practices, sure. We're learning that we do have the agency within us. And one of my mentor, Lauren, I remember, I'll never forget him telling me, he said, Justin, please never forget, especially as you're teaching people, that the real point of meditation is to help people recognize that the guru is within you. The guru is in you. The whole point of this practice is to help wake that up inside of yourself, because I can't tell you what to do. I can try, but I would much rather guide you into building a relationship with that space within yourself that is unshakable and immovable, and that space within you that knows. Mm-hmm. There is a space within you that does know. And you just experienced it a little bit today. And it knows on much greater levels too. But if we don't get quiet enough to hear it, to be in relationship to it, to feel it, then we end up constantly stuck, and allowing ourselves to be put in boxes that then we then feel stuck in and trapped in our own lives in some ways,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask you one more quick question.
Okay.
And then I'll kick it back to you.
Cool.
What are some things that we can do during the day, during our day, to help us be, and I hope this is the right term for it. I don't want to say be more mindful, but be more mindful of what we're trying to do. Because obviously we can't always say, hey guys, I got to take a minute. I'm going to go sit in my office and meditate for a second and then come back to this with a different perspective. So what are some things we can do?
Okay, so I'll give you two things. Yeah. So I'll give you 2.5 basically. Two that are connected. So
sure.
So if you never meditate a freaking day in your life, okay, if you just do this will change the game for you. And this is scientifically proven. UC Berkeley, Harvard, Yale, all studied it. You can look it up online. I've cited it in the book. One of the most important moments of your day is the 15 minutes after you wake up in the morning. 15 minutes.
Okay.
First few minutes of your day, your brain is actually in a similar state to being hypnotized, to being under hypnosis. It's in a super permeable kind of brain wave state. And so everything that you think, do, read, see, touch, everything that happens in that first 15 minutes has a consequential influence on your emotional state, your mood, your mental state, your productivity, everything throughout the rest of the day. And this is why so many of us, we have these days, sometimes more often than we'd like, where we're like, I just feel kind of off, but I don't know why. I'm just feeling a little off. I'm feeling anxious, this, that, and you don't know why. Oftentimes what the studies are finding is it tracks back to what happened in the beginning of your day. So much so that one of the studies that they did found that people who watched even 3 minutes, that's nothing, 3 minutes of something negative news or anything in the beginning of their day, were 27% more likely to report having a negative day 6 to 8 hours later.
Oh, wow.
27, that's like, it sounds like, 27, that's a lot.
No,
that's 30%. Like there's enough stuff going on in the day that can make you have a bad day, let alone the first 3 minutes of your morning, And so I'm sharing all of that with you to say that you have to. If you take anything with me today and you never buy the book, you never meditate, even though I'd love for you to get the book, but never do it. Check yourself before you check your phone. Check yourself before you check your phone. The studies show, if you even grab your phone in the morning and you turn off your alarm and you don't even read anything, but you see notifications waiting for you, or you see how many emails you have waiting, even if you don't look at them, text messages waiting, you feel like your brain feels like it's behind before it even got a chance to begin. And it implants this state of anxiety or this state of incompletion or like chasing after something that you can't quite catch because you've just kind of like programmed yourself to do that for the day. And so what I tell people is do everything you can for the first 15 minutes of your day not to get on your phone. If you have an alarm with your phone, which I do, I turn mine on airplane mode when I go to sleep. A lot of people say do not disturb, but you still get the notifications then. If you have to do not disturb, take the little notifications off of the lock screen so nothing pops up. You don't need those, and it will change. I've thousands of my clients and readers have done this, and they've written to me like, Justin, I can't even believe how much of an impact this has made. So that's number one.
Okay.
The 0.5 on that is to instead meditate. And people often say, well, I don't have time to meditate in the morning. And I'm like, you're doing a 10-minute Instagram meditation in the morning. You're doing a 10-minute email meditation in the morning. Don't lie. The I don't have time is a lie, And so if you're not going to check your phone, just replace that time with a little mindful time. And the science shows, and if you can't tell, like I can be a little woo-woo. I like the woo, but I actually love like weaving science into it all because it helps us understand what's happening in our body. And so my point here is the science actually shows that it's better to do short meditations consistently than long practices every once in a while. And what they've proven, which I think this study it's not officially released yet, but University of Miami found this when they were working with the military in incorporating mindfulness into the military. The military wanted to know, okay, if we're gonna spend time and resources getting our soldiers to meditate, what's the minimum dosage?
Yeah.
How much do they need? What they found was 12 minutes. That's it. Obviously, you get more if you go longer, but it's not like as significant. But 12 minutes is your marker. 12 minutes a day, you have it. Do it on the toilet. You know what I mean? Like you have it. And so if you incorporate that into your day and you don't check your phone, that will change everything. And then you'll have a different energy. If you're building yourself up with that purpose or building yourself up with whatever, you'll have that to go with you throughout whatever you're dealing with. And the last little point, this will be quick, Drew, because I see that we're at our hour, is when you're in a moment at work or wherever where you are like feeling off and you have to make a decision, I call them cigarette break meditations. Little quickie ones. Like you just literally like, okay, I'm getting ready to go into this meeting. I did it right before this call. I've had back-to-back things all day. I'm super hungry. And I just right before the call, like as I was pulling up the Google Hangout YouTube thing, I just went, inhale, 3 breaths. I went, presence, presence, presence. Like just call it in. And if you're doing it in the morning already, you'll be able to instantly access that space.
Okay.
And then it kind of gives you a little like injection of your, or a little hit or whatever, smoke, whatever you need. Okay. But it gives you what you need for your life. So those are my suggestions.
Those are great suggestions. I love the idea of a little hit, of a little quickie in the morning with that. That sounds
it's almost
great.
Like you can't find a word to use.
Yeah, no, there's. I just decided that's the word. We're gonna steer into it. So 10 seconds for a shameless plug. You can get your copy of Stay Woke, a meditation guide for the rest of us, with Town Book Center. And just because you're not in Pennsylvania, which is where we're located, doesn't mean you can't shop with us. You can go onto our website, which is townbc.com, townebc.com, and you can order it there with us. To the people who are watching, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Magpie Starcatcher actually wanted to thank you in particular, Justin. Thank you so much for your time, especially with how busy you are.
Thank you.
And I want to echo that. It really was wonderful having you on here. I hope we do this again, because I'll be honest, like that was the intro, and I'm sitting here going, man, we should have done like a 4-hour, just really like get in there, just get in. But thank you so much.
Well, I hope it was was that your first real meditation experience, Drew?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to use the word woo-woo because I think it's a good word. I was very, very woo-woo as a young teenager, and then, became an angry teenager and moved away from that. but it was the first time that it was guided. So that was
Cool.
really cool. I enjoyed that a lot.
Cool. Awesome. And just so people know, one of the things that I did with the book, if they like my guidance, is, and there are over 50 practices, guided practices in the book, some that are specific for anxiety and stress and trouble sleeping and self-love and confidence and focus and intuition and social justice. And we have 50 little practices, and each of them has a free audio guided practice that people can get as a free bonus download. They're totally a gift to everybody who buys the book, and the link is right there inside of the book when you get it, so that you don't have to feel like you're doing it on your own when you're first learning, and it's actually me guiding you through through all 50 of the practices. Wow. So it's a fun bonus that comes with the book.
Well, I'll tell you, you sold the book to me, so
yeah.
That's spectacular. Everyone is chiming in with thank you and how cool that is. So we're gonna let you go.
Thank you, Drew.
Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in tonight, and please check back with us.
I was going to play you guys a song, but I guess not.
You know what? I'll be honest, I've got time. It's about you. I don't want to...
No, this is my last thing of the day.
Yeah.
Let me play you guys a song. Let me play you all a song. So, I mean, what you mentioned in the beginning, and normally in the talks I talk about this a little bit more, but, I'm also a musician, and the main reason that I use music, I was like, I tuned my guitar and everything for you guys. I'm going to have to play this song.
Look, man, I am happy to go over an hour. I told you 2 hours is our record.
I know. I'm not doing 2 hours. This is going to be 5 more minutes. So,
okay.
I use music in my work. Can you hear the guitar right now?
I can. In fact, I'm gonna adjust the audio on the fly.
Okay, cool. So I use music in my work quite often because when you look at African American culture and most indigenous cultures, quite honestly, most cultures, indigenous to everywhere, Ireland, everywhere, music has never just been for entertainment. It's always been part of our liberation. It's always been for healing. It's always been part of the movement for change. It's the way that I look at it is it can't just be about the words. It has to be like letting music be the sugar that lets the medicine go down. And so I use music in all of my work to kind of help us let that medicine go down. And so I'd love to sing you all a song that we released with the book. It's on Spotify. It's everywhere with my other music and my album. And the song is called I Am Enough. And it's really just about no matter how many books we read, no matter how much work we do, I know we looked at that future version of ourselves. But when we look back at the childhood version of ourselves, there's always going to be that little kid inside of each of us who just wants to know that they're enough. That they're enough not just for what they do, but for who they are. And that we won't give up on them. And so this song is called I Am Enough, and the lyrics are, I am enough, I am golden, baby, yeah, if you feel like whispering along with it. And Drew, can I ask you to put yourself on mute for this, just so I don't get any feedback while I'm playing the song? And you can hear the guitar okay right now?
Yes, I can. I'm muting myself now.
Perfect. So this is I Am Enough. Feel it in your heart as a prayer and an intention for you. Little boy, don't cry. You've been in pain enough. No. Little girl, don't hide. You've been ashamed enough. No. One day I'll look into your eyes, show you don't need to hide behind disguise, no. Spread your wings, you're terrified. Don't be afraid, you're born to fly. I'm by your side, yeah. I am enough. I am golden, baby. I am enough. I am enough. Those are the words. I am enough. Oh, I am golden, baby. I am enough. I am enough. Oh, little girl, it's alright. You've taken the blame. Enough. No. Little boy, don't hide. You've been afraid. Enough. One day I'll look into your eyes, show you you don't need to hide behind disguise. No. Spread your wings, you're terrified. Don't be afraid, you're born to fly. I'm by your side. Here we go, say I am enough. Hey, I am golden, baby. I am enough. Hey, I am enough. Sing it like you mean it with me. Come on, I am enough. I am golden, baby. I am enough. I am enough. Oh, you are enough. You are golden, baby. You are enough. You are enough. For your heart, come on. You are enough. Sing it with me like a prayer. You are golden, baby. You are enough. You can even whisper it. This is for the childhood you. You are enough. Come on. You are enough. You are golden, baby. You are enough. One more time. You are enough. For the child in you. You are enough. Oh, you are golden, baby. You are enough. Last time, we're gonna go till we are enough. We are enough. We are golden, baby. We are enough. This is our moment. We are enough. This is our time. We are enough. We are golden, baby. We are enough. We are enough, no, we are enough. We are golden, baby. We are enough. This is our moment. We are enough. This is our time. We are enough. We are golden, baby. We are enough. We are enough, no. Ooh, I'm enough. You are enough. I am enough. You are enough. We are enough. We are enough. We are golden, baby. And really, I want to thank you so much for having me. And I want you to know that no matter what you're going through in your life, no matter what color your skin is, no matter how much money you have in your bank account, no matter how much trauma you've been through, no matter who you love, that you are enough. You are worthy of this life, of this gift that is your birthright. You are not deficient. And it's time to step up and step into the life that you were born to live. So thank you, Drew and Town Center, for having me. I'm so grateful and so thankful to be able to share with you all today.
And thank you, Justin. I don't think I can say anything better, so I think we'll end it there. Have a great night, everyone. Take care.
Much love.